Hello and welcome to the Claret Blue podcast, brought to you from the Poddymore Heath studio. I'm Dan Rowlandson, joined by John Townley. John, enjoy Brentford?
Yes, very much so. I do like an away trip to the G-Tech. I did say in the preview that we've had some good results. Well, the previous two before this was a spirited 1-1 draw, and then obviously last season a really good win coming back from behind, and then this time a clean sheet and a 1-0 win.
Nice.
So yeah, we ticked a lot of boxes in the game, and in general, yeah, a nice trip to the capital. I was a bit rushed coming back. Had to get the last train back and make sure my tube stops were in line. Couldn't miss like the two that I was getting. So yeah, a bit of rush at the end, but all good. Got my work done and 3 points in the bag, so happy days.
We'll dive straight into these questions then. We're going to start with a comment actually on the walk and talk video that you did yesterday after Brentford that went out on Sunday. Aidan said, "Great to hear John's thoughts and analysis without being interrupted by Alan Partridge asking something more inane like, which Villa player would you most like to have over for dinner and what would you serve for pudding?" Now, I assume I'm Alan Partridge in this situation, which don't mind it, to be honest.
Yeah, I love Alan Partridge.
Me too. I've said it a long time ago. The kind of perception that we have. I'm here to get the best out of you, basically. If that means me being a bit of a tit sometimes, then so be it. People like the walk and talks, which is it's good to see. It's nice.
Yeah, great. I don't know if it's good content. It's more me getting thoughts off my chest, and for some reason we've decided to publish it on YouTube. Yeah, we extend it to 10 minutes to give more of sort of a, I don't know, it's not, if it's only 3 minutes, I think it's quite easy just to sort of watch it and forget it sort of thing. So if, I don't know, like an added, it's bonus content really, like you obviously have like 50 minutes with yourself and someone else post-match, Matt, or if it's an away game, another guest. And yeah, it's just a bit more added content. I mean, again, don't know if it's great, but I do find myself anyway, like if I need to consume Villa content, I'm not too fussed in what form it is. I just need to hear about it.
No, so I enjoy it. I get to consume that as like a fan as well. And I was listening through to them. And if you did have to serve a pudding to a Villa player, what would it be?
Well, I've never cook a pudding. Like, do you know,
I know what you mean. Prepare.
Yeah.
I think you'd probably say the word might be.
Yeah, but again, that involves what baking or something.
Yeah,
that's not my thing. I do enjoy my cooking. It's quite therapeutic.
You've got into it, haven't you, over the last few months?
Yeah,
in a big way.
Sometimes I buy vegetables and just chop them, and I might not even use them, but they're there if I want them. So nice, like later, today's quite a busy day. I'll go back home and I'm going to cook some paella. So I'm going to cut loads of peppers up, and I'll only use a few, but then some maybe, I don't waste food, but
just there ready to go if you need something to snack on.
I enjoy my cooking. So I don't know what I would prepare for a dessert. I mean, what?
I'll go for a cheesecake. I think I like making a cheesecake 'cause it's pretty easy.
Not massive. I don't really do desserts that much. I don't know.
You're not a sweet fan, are you?
Well, yeah, desserts. I don't know. Not really. I'd rather have 2 meals than a dessert. So,
all right, let's move on to some actual football questions then. Aidan, thanks for the Alan Partridge reference. Andrew asks, this is a great question, and I don't have the answer, so I'm hoping you do. Why did Villa have Acorns as their sponsor in the round of 16 game away at Bruges, but Botano as their sponsor for the league phase game? Great question from Andrew.
Yeah.
No idea. Do you know? You've got your phone out for those that are listening, so you must have something.
Yeah, obviously I didn't know this before looking now. You might have to cut here quickly. Belgium's new gambling sponsor regulations, which took effect on January 1st, limit gambling logos to the back of shirts with a maximum size of 75 centimetres squared. Front of shirt betting sponsors are no longer allowed. There we go. So the rule changed on January 1, apparently.
Oh, and the first...
So the first...
I was thinking the year before. So the round of 16, the league phase game was November. Yeah. So the rule wasn't in place then.
I think there was a rule where under 21s or under whatever it was.
That's usually the case, isn't it?
I'm pretty sure Durant didn't wear a sponsor shirt, or Nedeljkovic, if I'm right.
That definitely did happen in one game.
That was November. Well, in the Bruges game anyway, I do remember seeing photos and whatever. Nedeljkovic and Durant didn't wear the betting sponsors for November. And then the rule changed January 1. So then there was no betting at all, so that's why we had Acorns.
Okay. I did assume it was a betting thing, but it was like, we did it a few months ago.
But it was different, so the rule changed.
The rule literally changed,
through those games.
So an actual explanation and some clamour for that away kit with Acorns on it. People want that to be released and to be in the club shop, which I don't think will happen, but if it did, that's the one I would buy. It looked very nice.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. People asking for...
People were like, oh, get this in the club shop. I'd buy it straight away.
Yeah, I presume there's something there, and I don't know this for sure, but I presume Batano would be...
they've got the rights to sell our kit.
Happily that a charity's getting money, but more like, well, we're paying X amount of money for you to sell shirts with our logo on it. Everyone's going to buy the Acorn shirt rather than Batano. So I guess maybe at the end of the season, could they change it? Because is anyone going to buy this season's shirt after? I don't know.
Ricardo asks, we're moving on quickly today, so we've got to get through these. Is Ramsey appreciated as much as he should be? Personally, I think he has a higher ceiling than almost anyone in the squad. I really like Ramsey. I think we've spoken about him before, that when he had spells outside of the team with injury, that when he's not there, you kind of forget how good he is.
Yeah.
He's certainly kind of showing over the last couple of games, and maybe this is recency bias. He looks sharp. He looks energetic. He looks strong. That run for Watkins for the disallowed goal.
Yes.
Was it the disallowed goal? Yeah, it was.
Yes, because it was Tielemans that played him through.
Yeah, Tielemans played through Ramsey. Sure. Ramsey kind of ran the length of the pitch, put Watkins through. Watkins puts it back for Rodgers. Yeah. Great running, really kind of intent and want to get forward and carry the ball forward. Positive, yeah. And that kind of gives us all that reminder of, oh yeah, there is a good player in there.
You
kind of forget sometimes, don't you?
Yeah, I remember whenever we talk about Ramsey, I always go back to the start of was it? Yeah, before the start of last season, we were in Hockley, and you asked me who was the player who was going to do a Louise in terms of kind of break out and be the player. I thought that was going to be Ramsey, because he had a fantastic end to that season, 22-23. I can't remember exactly, but I think, if memory serves correctly, it was 9 goal contributions in his last 11 games. And was it a goal contribution in each of the last 4 or 3? People will know, I can't think off the top of my head, but it was a goal at Liverpool, assists and goals against Brighton and the team we played, Spurs. And that was kind of proved to me, okay, like this, we knew he was good, like under Gerrard and stuff, and Gerrard spoke really highly of him, and you can say what you want about Steven Gerrard being a manager, but he knows what it takes to become an England player, and of course one of the best midfielders, period, like in Premier League history. So that kind of made us aware of Ramsey's game, and I think he did very well as well under Dean Smith at such a young age, to playing like in a midfield role as well, not necessarily on the wing or being given the licence to attack. He was box to box, so we've seen quite a lot of him. The injuries have scuppered him last season. That did affect his confidence. I think we saw a little bit of a confident Ramsey. I think he was in like the losing game when he then got another injury, which is his last game of the season. So that was really frustrating. And thankfully, this season he's not having as many issues anywhere near as much as what he had last season. I think his output can still be improved. But once it does, that's a player who you can hang your hat on and say he should be starting for us. And again, I think this is one of those cases where you bring in a player who everyone expects to be starting every game in Rashford, and then, well, actually, the guy that's already here, they go on another level, which is exactly what you want from the squad. And that's not me saying that Rashford's been underwhelming or anything like that. It's not what I'm saying. But what it does do is it increases competition for places, increases the level, and essentially the determination of Ramsey to say, actually, no, this is my place. I want to play every game. I want to be playing, if we beat Preston, at Wembley and the Champions League, if we beat Bruges in the second leg, quarter-finals, some caveats there. But yeah, definitely a player who I've been impressed by, especially in recent weeks. I think coming off the bench against Bruges as well, really good. Probably kind of understated about his role in that win in the end. I think he really helped kind of turn the tide. When Kamara came on, we had more control, but Ramsey, there's a few times when he beat his man, pulled the ball across the box like Crescencio. It was a good save by Mignolet. So yeah, Ramsey's a player that I really like, and similar to Grealish and Rodgers, like it seems to kind of be like I don't know about the modern Aston Villa player, but maybe just the Aston Villa player of like a player who can drive forward, has technical abilities, powerful, strong. Obviously he's a local guy as well, Villa fan, his brothers are Villa fans too. So yeah, I'm really excited about where he can go from here. And to kind of finish my point, Villa could have sold him in the summer to Tottenham and the PSR issues would have been solved, move on. But Emery said no, like I want this player to be in my squad. I know what he can give us moving forward. And this was, of course, at a time where he just had all those injuries. So if he had gone, I think it would be, I'd been devastated if Ramsey had left for different reasons. But Emery, to his credit, thought actually, no, we can solve our PSL problems here, but I'd rather do something else and keep this player because he sees so much in him. And I think we are seeing more of that as well now.
If he had a full season and he played, I don't know, Villa in lots of competitions and he features in 45 games, let's say, he might not always be starting. What kind of output should he be getting, do you think? What would his targets be?
I think every player in the Villa team, their target is double figures in each. And that's harder said than done.
Yeah.
Because if you look at this season, how many goals has Ramsey scored in the league? Is it one?
I think it's either one or two. I think it's one.
Which is obviously, nowhere near good enough.
Yeah.
But again, he hasn't been starting every game. He has had a couple of injuries here and there. But that will be the target. I think a strong end to the season kind of, I want to say masks it, but he's got stock, hasn't he? Because he's had injuries. There's reasons why his form hasn't been particularly good. So this isn't kind of a Leon Bailey situation where he has scored one goal but played quite a lot of games. And compared to last season, it's a huge drop-off. Ramsey last season didn't really play. So we've got to remember that too. Didn't have a pre-season the year before. Had most of the pre-season this time round. But nice just to see confidence. That's the key thing, I think, for Ramsey and for Bailey, because I've mixed him as well. Just seeing a confident version of those players. If they can lay the ball for Asensio to score and then he doesn't, well, they've done their job. So, it's all about moments, isn't it? But as long as we're seeing a confident version, I'm happy. And I'd predict that the output would increase.
You mentioned Bailey then, so let's skip forward and do one from Evan, who says, we know that Bailey's been out of form for some time now, and we know that Emery continues to pick him for structural reasons.
Yeah.
Is there a reason to why there's been such a sudden drop-off? Injuries, something behind the scenes, opposition players doubling up on him, etc., etc.?
Firstly, we know that wingers are a kind of special type of player in terms of they need confidence. We've seen that because Leon Bailey, let's not beat around the bush, wasn't particularly impressive once he joined. Well, actually, when he first joined, he scored against Everton and got an assist against Watford on the opening day of the season. I think with Danny Ings, was it? So he actually started quite well, but then for different reasons, confidence dropped, and he was. I remember watching a few games, like was it Leicester away when we drew 0-0 under Gerrard, and he looked scared to look forward, let alone run forward with the ball. There was moments where that was like almost quite sad to see, because it was so out of confidence. You really, at that point, I was like, I really don't know how Bailey goes from here. And again, Diaby coming in, we're not going to go over it now. We know what happened last season. He performed really well. Like, one of the best, I've kind of put it out here now, was that the best performance of a winger that Villa have had for, I'm talking like Ashley Young.
Yeah, I was going to say, Young.
Was that better than one of Ashley Young's seasons? Genuinely. It was that
potentially
good.
Without looking at some of the figures. Yeah,
like my hero growing up was Ashley Young, like my first kind of Villa hero.
Yeah,
kind of modelled my game on him, like whipping crosses to the back post and all sorts.
How did that go for you?
Whipping crosses to the back post and all sorts. And watching Leon Bailey last season, it kind of revived my sort of like, I love that player. Like Gareth Bale, for example, is my favourite footballer that isn't a Villa player, just because the way he's so good, dynamite. And I see last season there was parts where he'd pick up the ball on the edge of the box and you were like, okay, something's going to happen here. He's going to beat a man and put the ball across, and then it's again up to someone else to do it, or he'll get a shot off. That's what you wanted to see from Bailey. This season that hasn't happened, and the only thing I can put that down to is confidence. Why is that? Well, injuries. He said previously that he has to trust his body, and he has had a couple of issues. He had a hamstring problem in the Leicester game, I think. The away match, and I think he came off after like 20-something minutes and then missed going to international shoot with Jamaica because he kind of made up with them. And again, players have private lives too, so I'm not going to speculate about anything in terms of, it's just injuries, but who knows what's going on behind the scenes with any player.
Yeah.
There's different reasons why players lose confidence, and again, I'm not speculating about anything to do with any player, but we have to remember that these guys aren't robots, and there's a lot of kind of expectation that Bailey this season was going to hit double digits again in assists and goals, and over the course of the season would stay at the level that he had. I think there was always going to be a drop off. This has been quite a dramatic drop off in terms of output, but I have still seen in some games the Leon Bailey that kind of we know and that we loved last season. And as the question says, structurally it is important that he plays. There's a reason why I think the stat is when he scores, Villa don't lose. I think, is that right?
Yeah.
If he scores, Villa have never lost a game. That's quite something. So, it's never as good or as bad as what people make out, is what I would say. There's always a reason why Leon Bailey's playing and why Unai Emery, one of the best coaches in European football, keeps picking him. yeah, that's kind of my defensive Bailey. But again, under no illusion, and neither is Bailey, that his output has been nowhere near good enough this season.
Flip it to the other end of the pitch from David, who says, in your opinion, what is our strongest back four in terms of pure defence, not attacking threat? I would go with, says David, Konsa, Mings, Disasi and Dean. Now for this one, we're going to answer it, our tactics board. Ooh. So a little transition and we'll be back in a second. So welcome to Tactics Corner. If you can think of a better name than that, do let us know in the YouTube comments.
And if you've got any tacticians anywhere, bring them along.
We don't know what we're talking about. Shout out to Midtherm Laser Limited, by the way, one of Matt's friends who cut this little metal tactics board for us and gifted it to us. It's got our name on it as well, Claret Blue Podcast on the edge. We'll talk through this obviously as well for those that are only listening. But we've got an overhead camera with a big football pitch and 11 counters. Now the question was asking us what's our best defence. So obviously we're only going to be focusing on the defence, but if you want to just put these into position of
We'll start with the goalkeeper.
the rest of Villa's team, we've got Martinez in goal, and are we going to say it's a back four is our best defence? Or a back
Well,
four?
Here's where we get into conversation.
I'm going to put some of the others in as well.
I think Brentford summed it up really, because we went with wing backs, didn't we, in the second half, and we won the game from that. So I do think that away from her, it depends on the game.
Yes.
In my opinion, basically. Yeah. If you're playing, let's kind of go one end of the spectrum to the other. Southampton at home, you obviously play well with a 4 defensively, but a 3. So obviously your Luca Dean pushes up, your winger tucks in, you play a back 3 that pushes up for territory in their half, right? That changes when you're playing away to Brentford, away to Brighton, difficult away games, right?
Yeah.
So your right-sided player who, in Brentford's case, Leon Bailey, becomes Matty Cash. I'm not going to put him too far back because he was still high and wide, but of course in a defensive shape, you're going to do this. You have a 5 and then these 2 players tuck in, and then that probably happens, and you press with these players here from the front.
So like a 5-2-2-1 almost.
Yeah, exactly. Again, depending on how the opposition is structured, etc. But if we're kind of going to go as simple as, this is probably Villa's formation, as it were. Like if you're just going to name it. So my best defence, again, I think it does depend on matches. But if we're going to go off Brentford, why would you change
What worked?
Yeah. So I agree with the question. Disasi, Konsa, Mings and Luca Dean, they're all fantastic, and it worked.
And in a role where you are going to be maybe a bit more defensive, where this is an actual back 4 and your right back is a centre back basically who's going to come in for a defensive purpose. Maybe this is a Cash that can do both. Yeah. But from an attacking point of view, you've got to have this player providing width, because your right back is not going to venture past the halfway line very often. Yeah. You're not going to find Disasi down here whipping balls in. The rest of the team kind of forget about that for now. If this is Kamara, does that mean that this can be Garcia because Kamara does that, and then you've got this anyway? Yeah. But as a kind of best defence, I do think the 3 centre backs, if you like, in a back 4 is our best and strongest team. Yeah. The only one would be this one, left centre back. Is that Mings or is it Torres?
If I'm gonna kind of nail my colours to the mast, it would be Torres.
Yeah.
Because in a cup final, it's just like we're gonna have to try and control elements of that game still, and Mings can definitely do that, by the way. But I think, as you say, if we're going to play our best team to win a football match and play our best brand of football, it would be, you'd have Luca Dean up here, you'd have the 2 midfielders in here, you'd have Watkins as the forward. This is Ramsey or it's Rashford. This is Rodgers or Asensio. This is possibly McGinn, Bailey. We've got options, right? But in terms of a formation, you have the 3 here. So you have Disasi, Konsa and Torres, you have Kamara and Tielemans. Yeah. I think that is, and then Luca Dean is up here. That is, for me, your shape. And of course, if Torres isn't available, I'm more than happy to see Mings play there. Yeah. But in terms of controlling a game, that's what we've seen, and that's how we've seen Villa play their best football under Emery.
And as we've said before, it is obviously opposition dependent. That if this is Nottingham Forest whipping balls in for Chris Wood, I would rather this be Tyrone Mings than Pau Torres.
100%. But as a structure, I think this is our best structure, and there's nothing groundbreaking. But I did like what I saw against Brentford when we just did that, and these players were working as a structure. That, for me, was rock solid.
That's kind of like classic away day. We're going to fight for everything.
When you have options, this is what we have. We have 2 different systems, or lots of different systems, but it's 2 systems that I prefer best, really. For me, I thought and I still maybe there's the case before we signed Disasi, that Kamara, as we saw before, so this would be Cash, that's Constance, this is Mings, or Torres. Cash would go up and Kamara would do that. We've seen that, and that's then your three of like, and that would happen. And then Cash, Dean, McGinn drops, Tielemans, and then Kamara, Constant, Mings, or Torres. That I thought was our best shape, but actually now that we've signed Disasi, who is a player that we've wanted for that profile, because we obviously wanted Geertruida before, after my video in the previous summer window. But that player is so important, and Emery said after the press conference that was crucial, that position, because that allows Kamara to play in midfield, which adds more bite there. That is the system you want, and the players that we have, you've now got options to do lots of different things. So the key thing is they're good players.
Yeah, okay. On with the rest of the questions. David says, a different one. Will Villa open talks with Kamara to sign a new contract, or will he run it down and leave on a free like his last club? Or hopefully not. We are going to do an episode about like Villa's expiring contracts at some point over the next couple of weeks. And
I'm really interested by that.
Kamara is obviously one of them. There's a lot of talk about this of like, will he let it run out? And you kind of think, is it coming to an end soon? It is 2027. Like this isn't a massive. It is obviously a priority, but it's not like a ticking time bomb that it's next summer or it's this summer. Obviously, that would be a disaster. So there's time to sort it. Whether he stays or not depends on different factors, I think.
Yeah,
if Villa are still in Europe.
I think we're only having these conversations or these kind of questions because obviously it's already been publicised that Villa are going to open talks with him. Yeah. And that is not a suggestion that things aren't going well. Do you know what I mean? Like, things it was just publicised that, talks are going to open a new deal. For example, Yuri Tielemans also in 2027, Villa will be looking at that and wanting to give him a new deal too. Again, to protect the asset for one. I wouldn't say kind of reward him for his performances because they've been fantastic, but obviously on big money anyway. I don't think there's a need to just continually increase wages of players. But to give them more years, more security as well on good money, very good money.
As they get into an age where they might think, like, is this one of my last bigger contracts as well?
Yeah. So, lots of different players.
2020. That is, by the way, not Kamara. I know he's obviously a bit younger.
2027 is going to be an interesting kind of year in terms of contracts. As with 2026, but I'm not going to touch on it now because you're going to do an episode. But a couple of players there that... like really interesting, I think. Yeah. So
why it's worth a whole episode because we could do it now, but we'd spend 25 minutes talking about it.
In terms of Kamara, no doubts that he's very happy here, and as are other players, they can see the progress that the club is making on and off the pitch. They want to be a part of it. There seems to be always something new happening. This is not the reason why Kamara will be signing a new contract, but small things like all the signage and stuff at Bodymore now is being changed.
Is it?
Again, completely irrelevant, really.
Does Kamara care about that?
No, I don't think so. But I do, and I thought that's nice. Like I saw them changing the. Basically, I don't know if you've been to Bodymore for a long.
We went together once
for Cash interview.
Was that Cash?
It was the old badge prepared on the front as well, and all of that's being changed at the front of Bodymore. So I don't know where I'm going with this, but my point is that there's like a. Do you know what I'm trying to say though?
Kind of.
Maybe I'm doing the partridge here.
But I don't think the players would care about that.
No, but I tried to link it to the point of
this is a club on the upwards trajectory.
No, it's in. This sounds so stupid now, so I'm going to put myself in a hole. But do you know what I'm trying to say?
I do, yeah, but I don't think it's not relevant to the players.
It's a really minor point that I'm trying to make into a bigger point of like. There's no way of getting out of this. Is the people. No. Okay, right. Bodymore has had lots of updates. It's like everything's state of the art. Everything is best in practice. Realistically, like the stadium improvements are being made all the time. The training ground improvements are being made all the time. What am I trying to say? Basically, there's no area. This is what I'm trying to say. There's no area of the club that is kind of second rate in terms of what the players are given. Yeah. We can talk about other things, about fans and concourses. Kamara's not walking through concourses though. So in terms of what the players have and what they're given, obviously there's new additions to the body will be made about like not literally a hotel, but more areas for players to sleep in after games, all that stuff.
I suppose to help you out, flip that to Man United, who are cutting meals to players kind of and coaches and stuff.
Yeah, like everything's. I don't mean this in terms of the new signage and stuff. Everything is being aligned to kind of perfect and kind of no excuse not to be one of the best clubs in the world, as Chris Heck says. later on. So revenue's going up, everything's going up, including player wages. As I say, we can't break the bank completely because of financial rules, but there's nothing at the club for a player to look at and think, I can't achieve my goals because of this. That's what I'm trying to say. Nothing to do with the font, but that was just one very small part of me saying that everything just looks good and is good inside as well. Is the kind of it looks good from the outside, us fans, and everything else, and inside it's great as well. Obviously, again, there's other things like PSR and finances, but we're all aware of that. The players are aware of it too. But if you're going to offer them good money on a long-term deal, playing under Emery, hopefully Champions League next season, who knows, hopefully a trophy, all these different things, why the hell would you then go to another club that isn't the kind of the best?
Jordan says, who of our players out on loan is making a shout to do a Bogarde in the summer?
Do a Bogarde.
So, come in, look good, and be kept around the squad, basically.
Yeah. Well...
Shall I go first?
Yeah, there's kind of two ways to take this.
Yeah, I'll take this as probably not the way it's intended in the sense of like a youth player. But Enzo Barrenechea has done, by all accounts, very well in Valencia. I'm sure most people who are listening to this are on social media and saw the little highlights montage of him recently and the assist that he got in a game for Valencia. I don't know whether it was at the weekend or last week. But very good. Looks very good. Very good on the ball. Good off the ball as well in the bits that I've seen. I've not watched any full 90 minutes of him. I'm not going to be stupid enough to suggest I've been watching every minute of Enzo Barrenechea and this is what I've spotted.
But why though? It's your job.
No, not really. But he looks like he could play a part in Villa's midfield next year.
Yeah.
Now, Villa's midfield is very bloated with Barkley, Anana, Kamara when he signs his new contract, Tielemans, John McGinn.
Before you can do the chant then.
So
best midfield in the world.
Where does Enzo slot in? Does he replace Barkley potentially? Who knows? But anyway, he looks like a good player. He's like somebody who is either going to come back in and be a part of Villa's team next year or has done well enough that Villa can now sell him for a profit.
Yeah.
The other side of it is picking somebody as a youngster like a Bogarde, which is what the question was asking for. Have you got an answer for that?
Well, I mean... in terms of the younger, you would say Barry or you would say Swinkles.
Yeah.
I haven't watched all these players out on loan, but nothing out there screams to me that they're going to be in the first team because Villa's first team is trying to compete for Champions League. It's trying to win every game they play, so we have to be realistic. I think a couple of players may be another loan away from being back in the fold or whatever it may be. Barry and Swinkles would be most ready to compete. I think Swingers probably needs maybe another loan because, again, he's playing for Bristol Rovers. I know it's what Bogarde did as well. But there's a lot of competition in defence, including with Bogarde. So, yeah. Barry, shame because he's been injured.
Yeah.
Or is injured, sorry. For maybe the rest of the season, hopefully before it ends for Hull, he will go back there.
That's his aim, isn't it? I'm sure since he wanted to maybe play the last couple of games of the season.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
The only other one you'd say would be Lewis Dobbin as well, but again, Unai Emery will be the best judge of where he thinks these players are, and again, unfortunately, we live in a world of PSR where these are assets that can raise combined, a decent sum. So I hate talking like that, but that's just the way it is. Beyond Barrenechea quickly, I mean, the way that he plays, it's just a lovely footballer.
Yeah.
It's so effortless when he's pinging passes left to right. That's something that doesn't really matter if you're playing against Valladolid or Crystal Palace or two very random teams there. But you know what I'm saying? Maybe he's under a bit more pressure, but to have the accuracy and the awareness to pick up the ball and it's on a 6 punt, it's perfect. Long range passing, fantastic. Short passing as well, very good. His defensive awareness, there's a few clips there that reminded me of Kamara when he just gets his body in front of the ball, and all of a sudden it's like a fire extinguisher. I'm not worried about that now.
Almost like a Kamara / Louise hybrid.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. So it looks like it looked like a good pickup before. I think just from watching some pre-season games, there was clearly a good player there. It reminded me a little bit of when we signed Kamara and I was watching him in pre-season in Australia and everything was just so effortless and it was like the world just stops still when he touches the ball and everything's just like, that I got that vibe with Barrenechea playing against Walsall and that is obviously the caveat, but now seeing that sort of being backed up in professional proper matches in La Liga, yeah, looks good. And also, since Corberán's come in, he's been like in Valencia. They're saying he's the best player for them, and they've seen some good players down the years, and they're all saying like we haven't had this player for a long time. So I'm really excited to see where it goes. And I think, is he 24 now? I think when he joined, he was 23. So he's not young, but in football years, but in appearances that he's made, he is young. If that makes sense, he hasn't played a lot of football at all.
Yeah.
He didn't come on the scene when he was 18 and start playing for X club. It's taken him a little while to get into things, but yeah, from what we're seeing this season, looks like a real good player. So I think it's one of those where if Villa were to sell him, I think there'd be a bit of uproar, even though a lot of fans haven't even watched 90 minutes. But it's more of the excitement and the, what have we got here? So yeah, really excited by that. However, you make a good point, Dan. Villa's midfield is, I mean, it's mad because a lot of them are injured, but in terms of numbers, very stacked. But is that a player that you need to sell straight away in the summer? Can you not just give him at least half a season? And
I'd want to see him play for us.
If he can't, if he's not suited to the Premier League, which I can't see that being the case, but if he isn't, okay, well,
he's still going to have some value afterwards.
Yeah, I can't see his value just. It's not going to depreciate too much if he doesn't play too much, and then that's going to worst case scenario.
Or the European sides not blessed with loads of money would say, well, he's not fit for the Premier League, but he did very well in La Liga.
Exactly, yeah.
He could come and do very well in Serie A, for example.
Yeah, exactly. How many players leave? Like McTominay, Lookman, other players. Philip Billing scored a winner for Napoli the other day in the title race, and he's a good player, but you know what I'm saying. Someone Brandon Che, hopefully he can have a chance in the first team, and kind of, it's different, but like Nedeljkovic, sort of be given an opportunity. If he takes it, fantastic. If he doesn't, well, then decisions will have to be made, because again, Villa do need to make money. But what's great is that clearly that's an asset and clearly a good player that we have. And then maybe in the long term, we can look back and think, actually, the Luiz deal wasn't so bad overall. Illing Jr. is on loan at Borough at the moment, but I don't know if he's playing too much football, to be honest with you. But
penultimate question of the episode comes from Dan. He simply says, give us your end of season predictions for each competition. So I'll rattle through these pretty quickly. Let's start with the FA Cup. Should we say these at the same time and see if we're levelled up on it or not?
Yeah, I think we're going to say the same for the FA Cup. But go on.
Right. 3, 2, 1.
Winners.
Semi-finalists.
Oh, okay. I feel it.
You feel it?
I feel it in my plums. Like, we just shouldn't have said that. Who said that? It was in a movie, one of the few movies I watched.
I don't know. I can feel it in my plums. It's normally I feel it in my waters.
Anchorman.
Oh, yeah. Not a fan of Anchorman.
You are?
Not really bothered by Anchorman.
What?
No.
Really?
Yeah. We can do this with the Champions League because we've done our Champions League predictions, so unless we change our minds, still same in semi-finals?
Semi-final.
After watching PSG Liverpool, I'm a little bit more tempted to say semi-finals.
Quarter-final.
If we got Liverpool.
Who would you rather play now?
Liverpool.
It's mad, isn't it?
I think we've got more chance of beating Liverpool.
It's mental. Like,
PSG look really good.
I want PSG, and then saying them should be winning 5-0. Liverpool's the easier game now.
Liverpool can be got at, and if over 2 legs, I agree. Obviously, at the time, everything you said about them was fine. Yeah. Can we beat them over 2 legs? Well, yeah, as long as you're in it after the Anfield game and you've got something to play for at Villa Park, yeah, of course we can. PSG, I'd be worried that the game was out of sight after the first leg. Premier League is probably the one where we might have the most difference. I kind of said and was called out on it by our audience the other day that I was writing off Europe, which is fine. That's how I felt at the time. Things change. I still think top 5 is going to be a big ask. Even though as close as we are to it, with having played a game more than some of the others, we've still got to win maybe 6 games of the remaining 9 to stand a chance for top 5, I think, which is doable. 4 of those were at home. It's against opposition that are above us. If you take points off them, they're not getting anything that week. You know, all of a sudden that gap can look different. But I still think 5th will be difficult. I'm going to say 7th.
I think an honest poll of supporters would probably put us like over the kind of average would probably be 7th. I think Chelsea are the ones to be caught. I think.
Okay.
I think City should.
What about Newcastle?
Yeah. No, as in they'll be
6th in my league table with us 7th.
They'll be competing for it. I think it's between. I don't know. This is a long way to go, but Chelsea are not secure in that. I did think they were earlier in the season. They're not at all. You know, they beat Leicester, but they kind of celebrated that like it was the 3rd last game of the season. Put it this way, I just think we have to win all of our home games. Win all 4. Newcastle, Forest, Fulham, and Spurs. And then you're going to have to get a couple of wins at least on the road. and maybe that is, Brighton away and Old Trafford and Southampton. If we can do that, we've got a great chance, and we definitely can. But there's also a lot of pressure there because we're going to hopefully have a quarter-final. We're going to hopefully have 2 Wembley trips and an FA Cup final to look forward to. And knowing that we have those games, for example, we play Newcastle, and then the week after, hopefully, we have an FA Cup semi-final. Would that affect the Newcastle game, which we have to win? Maybe it does, and all of a sudden, So I feel like it's on a knife edge, basically. Like the Brentford, for me, we had to win, and we did. But if we didn't, and we conceded late on, then the kind of feeling is much more deflated. So it does change literally on every single game. So, yeah, we can get Champions League. But right now, I think there's other teams, as Unai would say, that are more favourites than us.
Of the next few games, they're all must-wins until you can get away with not winning one because you've won all the ones before.
I know what you mean, yeah.
So, like, is it Brighton, Forest, City? No. Brighton, Forest, Southampton?
Yep.
If you were to win all three of them...
I think you need 7 points from there.
Let's say you won all three.
Yeah.
The game after it, whoever that is...
Newcastle.
Is that a must-win? Probably still yes, but it's definitely a must not lose.
Yeah.
And if you drew, you'd say, well, we've won the previous 3, so we can afford to drop 2 points against them, and they've not gained anything either. Yeah. If you lost to Brighton, you have to win the ones coming after it, and then again, it's that kind of massive pressure. So
even Brighton, by the way, if they beat us, that's then how many points ahead of them? Is it 4 points ahead of us then? And then they're in the... So it is going to change on every single game. So after every podcast, after every game, we'd sit here on a podcast and talk about it. But
if you had to put a percentage of our chances of top 5 now, as of whatever today is, what would you go for? Less than 50%?
Considering 50-50 is, I think, good odds for us, by the way.
Yeah.
I'd probably say it's less than that because there's traffic.
Yeah.
I'm 100%, put it this way, I'm 100% sure, and you are as well, that we can do it, as is everyone. We're 100% sure we can, 100%. But whether we will, that has to be...
Whilst it's still mathematical, if we had to win the last 5 games of the season to do it, I'd still say, well, we can.
Yeah, we 100% can.
Of course we can, I'm not saying we will, but we can win 5 games in a row.
Yeah, a little side point, the City game, which is, I think, scheduled for Monday night, if I'm correct, that's the weekend of the FA Cup semi-finals, which means...
And one of us could be in it. Yeah,
there's a decent chance that at least one of us will be in that semi-final, so that game would have to be moved and played, don't know when.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's the kind of same feeling almost of when we played them last year. I think that was moved to like a midweek game or whatever, but we didn't throw it, but we made lots of changes. That will be completely different this season.
That was my wedding day.
It was. Yeah.
3rd of April. If my wife's watching, 3rd of April. Still remember the date.
I hope that's right.
That was it 4-1?
4-1. Yeah, we made it 1-0 through Duran, and we conceded that free kick goal from Foden where the wall just parted. Was it Zaniolo? I can't remember. Anyway.
Final question to end. A little bit of a potential silly one from Daniel, depending on how you take it. If you could scrap one thing in football, what would it be? Mine would be half-time and replace it with 4 quarters instead of 2 halves. That way I have more opportunities to have a comfort break. So I don't think Daniel is taking this in the most serious way either.
Can't see that one getting...
Imagine that 4 halves. That'd be crap, wouldn't it?
It would.
A break at 22 and a half minutes.
Yeah.
What do you go for? An answer for this?
Okay, well, one of them has come to my mind now. And this is, again, I think a lot of these are sort of, well, if you're the team that's winning, or if it benefits you, it's fine. But if it's not, it really grinds your gears. What really grinds my gears, and it's difficult because you can't just add 12 minutes on to the end of the game, right? But it's...
Well, you can.
Yeah, you can. But
they don't.
Sometimes there'll be 4 goals in the second half, right? And they add 5 minutes on. Why? Why would you add 5 minutes on when it takes about a minute and a half for celebrations?
They used to say 30 seconds for a goal. I don't know whether that's still true.
But that's just stupid.
It's not enough anymore, is it?
But firstly, we all know that the average time of the ball actually being in play is about an hour.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like, well, you can't add 30 minutes onto the end of the game. So everyone accepts it because, it's not futsal where the ball just doesn't go out.
Yeah.
Where the ball does go out in futsal. You know what I'm trying to say? It's not like a... Yeah. But when it's clear and obvious... Oh, God, I shouldn't have said that. When it's clear and obvious that there has to be time allotted for this reason.
Yeah.
Like, because players are walking back or something. That's the kind of thing that really annoys me. Like, there'll be 5 minutes added, and it's like, well, there's been 4 goals, which means there has to be at least 4 minutes added to what was already...
Yeah, I see what you're saying,
That annoys me, because it's just blatantly lying, essentially. That really grinds my gears. There'll be other things I can't think of right now, and the only other thing would
I think there'll be loads on for this if you really sat down and thought about it. Yeah.
And I think everyone has them, but I can't think off the top of my head.
You could do a whole list.
The
of
only
these.
other one would be that when players dive, clearly simulate and don't get booked.
Yeah.
I don't know, that's pretty like obvious. It's not like anything new, but that's what that used to happen. Like 2 years ago, players were getting booked. These days, you see players throw themselves to the floor and nothing happens. And just following off of that one, the only other one.
Told you there was loads.
Is when I won't have audio if I stand up, so I'm not going to do it. But when an attacker is...
Oh, I need to see you play out what you're about to do.
Okay,
I'll describe it.
I'm in the corner, like shielding the ball, and I've got nowhere to go. I'm the attacker.
Yeah.
This is the corner, and the defender's next to me, like just putting pressure on, and then they just.
Yeah, they go down,
It's
not
a foul.
The refs know that they've gone down easily,
And
but
the
they give it
linesman's
anyway.
there like, you having me on? Like Concert does it really well, but because he's fouled, because the attackers are bad at this. Because if it's the other way around, they'll clip the heels, which makes you fall over, which is a foul. Like if there's contact, it's a foul. But when attackers literally just stand there and get the body in the way, and they're like, oh, I've got nowhere to go.
The slightest touch.
All over.
Yeah,
and the linesman's standing there and he's waving as if it's like an assault.
I'm going to add something in rather than tweak something that already exists. So I'm not sure I even believe in this, but maybe I'll convince myself of it as we go along. And I'm just saying this for podcast's sake, really, just to spark conversation. I'm going to nick the style of the playoffs in the Championship and bring that into the Premier League for competition for European places, which is, it's a bit American. I'm not sure I fully agree with it. But let's say top 4 gets Champions League as it does now, and 5th to 8th is a playoff for European places. So you guaranteed your top 4, as we did for Villa last year. You work really hard, you finish 4th, you get rewarded for that. There's a slog at points to get over the line. Yeah. If you were then put into a playoff, you'd be a bit like, oh, we've worked so hard, now it could all be gone. Which is, same as finishing 3rd in the Championship. You could be so close to the top 2, but you've got to go through the playoffs. So you have 4 teams go through, 2-legged semi-finals, and then a big final at Wembley or whatever. The winners of the final go to the Champions League with the top 4. The runner-up gets Europa League, and the 2 losers of the semi-finals go to the Conference League.
Okay.
So you get 8 teams in Europe, which is probably against the rules. 2 in the conference, one in Europa, or maybe 3rd and 4th play each other. I think the winner of that gets Europa as well, and then you've only got one Conference League.
The style of it, I think, could have legs. Yeah,
I'm not sure I fully back it myself.
No, but it's an interesting.
Imagine the excitement, even as a neutral, if you weren't involved with it.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't be saying this if we were Villa of last year, but Villa of this year, you'd be going, well, we have got a good chance of being in the top 8, and that's not just the Conference League. If we can beat in the playoffs against Bournemouth, we could get to the Champions League.
And if this happened at the start of a season, everyone knows that you don't have to finish 5th to have a chance to get in Champions League. You can finish 7th or whatever. So, yeah, possibly. I think it definitely adds excitement.
I'm not sure it'll ever happen, and I would feel very differently.
You never know. There are more American owners than ever.
True.
In the league.
True. And it is a bit of a lazy comparison, I suppose, to say it's a bit American, but we have it in the Championship for promotion. So
yeah, we it's very American, but the EFL.
Yeah, exactly. We do have some form of this already. So it's a bit European Super League to try and contrive more clubs to get into the Champions League. But I think it probably stems from, and this is an idea I thought of literally 5 minutes ago, but how competitive that probably top 8, top 10 maybe is this year, that there's a couple of clubs who are fighting really hard, dealing with injuries and whatever, that are going to miss out on the elite prize, which that's what the system is, right? Fair enough. But having that kind of contingency almost of, okay, we'll have a semi-final against Bournemouth, and then we might play Chelsea in the final at Wembley. The winner gets Champions League. Runners up even is just the Europa League, but we finished 8th anyway, so that's better than what we get in the current system. So this is obviously benefit of Aston Villa 2025 rather than 2024. But it's an idea nonetheless.
Yeah, for sure. I got no
Right. I think we could probably do a whole episode about things that irritate us in football and things that we could change if people want that.
If you give someone a day to talk about it, they'd rattle off.
And not just like PSR or VAR, they're obvious things, like the stupid little things like time wasting and the things that you were talking about. They're things that wind up a lot of people.
Yes.
Right, okay. Let's call it a day there then on this episode of the Claret Blue podcast. John, thank you for joining me as always for the Q&A. We'll be back again on Tuesday with a Bruges preview, so do come back for that. Thank you very much for watching along or listening to this episode of the podcast, and we will see you tomorrow.